Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online and on YouTube. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick, and that is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
Let them know what they're into.
Post NFL draft. We'll talk
Absolutely.
a little draft. There's all sorts of news coming out of the NFL. Plus, we'll talk NBA playoffs. Yes, I said playoffs.
Playoffs.
And then we'll have Olivia Willis from Centennial High School. Will come in at 7:30. Talk about the Gear for Greatness donation camp that she's doing, donation drive. Coming up before the Christian McCaffrey, formerly known as the Deebo Samuel camp. And miscellaneous news all across some players, some fans getting ejected out of some games over the weekend. We'll have this and much, much more. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We've got our video streaming on the Early Bird Special YouTube page. Plus, you can call or text in anytime throughout the show at 661-842-2000.
No matter where you are in America, you can text or call us at any point in time, and we will answer your questions as quickly as we possibly can. Normally, this would be a Motivation Monday, but there is so much going on in the world of sports that we had to just shelf that for the day. We'll get that again next week. Hopefully, you guys can go into this week well motivated with everything you saw already.
Plus, what Olivia's doing for the community.
It's incredibly motivational.
That's motivation.
It's incredibly motivational. So, but my friend, we got to talk NFL draft first, because that's all anybody's going to be talking about today is what happened over the weekend in the draft. And essentially what we all were shocked about, which was obviously Shedeur Sanders being the 6th quarterback taken off the board, 6th. And again, this is a guy who was projected to be not only in the top 10, but the second best quarterback in the entire draft. And he goes 6th.
I mean, you're bigger of a college football fan than I am. So, I mean, were you too surprised? Because I'm hearing both sides.
Look, now the draft process and the just the scouting of these guys and how they could work out for your team and all that type of stuff. I know it varies from team to team. And I know everybody's got their own plans and their own ideas. These are 32 separate businesses, as it were. This is still a job interview. So there are some situations that I kind of understand why they would shy away from Shedeur. One being his father coming out and saying on multiple shows in the past year that if they don't like who he gets drafted to, he's going to pull in Eli Manning and tell him, no, you can't draft my boy. And there are plenty of conspiracy theories going around right now of why this took place, why Shedeur dropped all the way to the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. The one thing that I didn't understand about this, Sparky, and put on your GM hat for me, my friend, because I want you to help me out with this. We had 4 to 5 rounds. It was actually about halfway through round 5 in which he got drafted by the Browns, but they traded up to get him. Explain that to me.
I don't get it.
You had 4 other picks, and not to mention, all we heard throughout this entire draft process for the past week was the Browns want to unite Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders in the pros. And then you go and trade away your opportunity to draft Travis Hunter to the Jacksonville Jaguars, but still draft Shedeur Sanders 5 rounds in. This is why I somewhat understand and somewhat kind of agree with the collusion conspiracy theory. I think this was planned. I think the NFL legitimately said, hey, or they got all 32 guys in a meeting and said, nobody touch this kid. No, we're going to humble this kid and his entire family and every other kid in NIL right now making millions upon millions of dollars thinking they're going to come in bigger than the NFL brand.
You think that was a conversation?
I think so. Because, I mean, think about it. Everything that Roger Goodell, these owners, and everybody has done that has been connected to the NFL since its inception has been to defend the shield. It is never to defend the player. This is the one league, I think, in professional sports right now that is not trying to lean into their players like the NBA does, and somewhat like the MLB is gonna start doing here in a little bit, because that's what they need to do in order to become exciting again. I don't think the NFL you're ever going to get that because nobody's ever going to be bigger than the Shield. And I think this was one of their ways of showing not only Shedeur and the Sanders family of that, but the entire world that nobody comes in bigger than the actual brand of the NFL.
I mean, I could see it. I also, I mean, if you watch the draft, you hear both sides of it where I mean, I had to mute it after day one because I couldn't hear Nick Saban drool all over these players. And I'm not a Nick Saban fan, obviously, being a Dolphin fan, I cannot stand the guy. But going back to protecting the Shield, and let's hear from Damian Harris real quick and then kind of bounce off our opinions on this one.
I think that this is the NFL starting to take a stand with all the changes that we are seeing in the climate of college football. These kids, they have a lot of power, and especially a kid like Shedeur, whose father happens to be Deion Primetime Sanders. Kids hold all of the control and all the power when it comes to college football. Whenever that starts to transcend and work its way and leak and creep into the NFL, that's when the owners are going to put their foot down. That's when the league is going to put its foot down and say enough is enough. And I think this is the perfect example of it. And unfortunately, it does have to be Shedeur. We can sit here and talk about how great he is as a quarterback, how accurate he is, how he stands in the pocket and delivers the football under pressure. He does a lot of things well. But at the end of the day, this is not about Shedeur's play. This is about the fact that he is the most polarizing, the brightest example of what college football is becoming. And he is going to suffer because of it. He is suffering because of it, because the NFL is looking at him like he's our prime suspect of somebody we can make an example out of and send a message. And that is exactly what the NFL is doing.
I mean, it's pretty much what I said. At this point, I think the NFL is just making an example of this kid because why else would the Cleveland Browns trade up to get him?
When they've already drafted a quarterback.
Yes, and Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. So that also didn't make sense. This is why I also believe that maybe the other conspiracy theory that I heard that kind of made sense was maybe the NFL did this on purpose to keep people talking about what was a really, really weak draft.
Keep the ratings up?
Exactly. Until day 3, because everybody would wonder, where is Shedeur going? Where is Shedeur going? That's the only reason I can see why Cleveland would have to trade up to go get him, because you've already seen from every team in the NFL, nobody wanted this kid for the first 4 rounds, and it's going to magically change that he's going to be the hot commodity in the 5th. No.
And NFL is king when it comes to viewers.
Exactly.
They've already known it. But 13.6 million average viewers for round 1 of the draft, which tops 12.2 million from the NBA Finals last season.
That's incredible. And 600,000 showed up to Lambeau over the weekend too, and it's 3 days. Again, we said this on day 1. We knew it was going to be big viewership numbers because every team was going to be involved, which means every fan was going to be watching because your team was either going to be drafting a player on day 1 or trading that pick away for something better or potentially worse in certain situations.
And someone that wasn't happy about it was the Mel Kiper Jr.'s.
Mel has been livid all weekend.
And listen to him and Louis Riddick on this.
This isn't a talent issue. This isn't a can-do issue. This transcended that. And that's why I think of anybody on that list that you have of fifth round guys, none of them had the skill set that this young man had. This is not about can you play the position. This is about do we want you to play the position for us? That's what this.
Why wouldn't they, Lou?
Well, look, that's a whole nother discussion that we've had in many different ways for weeks
I would say
and
that
months now.
This is not one of the toughest quarterbacks you've ever
But Mel, this isn't about this isn't about quarterback traits and quarterback characteristics, personal football character. That's not about this. This is personal.
Has he had an off the field issue? No, he has not.
Mel, you don't have to sell it to me.
No, I don't know what we're talking about here.
You're right. You're right.
Yes,
you're right. But you know what? Mel, the draft has spoken.
No.
Mad Mel in his full form, I swear. Like, I thought that was Ty Schmidt for a second. I agree with him, but I don't have the passion behind it. Don't get me wrong. Like, this doesn't anger me. Personally, I think this should be a form of motivation for Shedeur going forward. You think that 5 rounds of players are better than you? No. Heck no. And if it's a guy like Shedeur, I guarantee you right now he makes that roster and probably starts week 1 for the Browns with how
you think so?
How thin their quarterback room is right now? Absolutely. You got 5 quarterbacks in this room right now, just so everybody knows. Deshaun Watson, who will not be playing this year, he re-aggravated his Achilles tendon, and more than likely will probably get dropped by the Browns at some point this year because this entire experiment has not worked at all. They signed Joe Flacco, probably a consistent starter in the NFL, regardless of his age, but we'll see how that goes. And then his other two competitors are Kenny Pickett and the quarterback that was taken above him, Dylan Gabriel, as which we spoke about already. As talented as Dylan Gabriel is, the guy is tiny, has never played football in a really rough weather situation. He will most likely go to the practice squad. I like the guy, but he is not a starting quarterback, nor is he probably a backup quarterback in the NFL. We'll see how that goes.
Ooh.
Kenny Pickett, jury's out, bud.
Well, he's a backup quarterback. That's what he is.
Jury's still out on you. I would like to believe that you can make something happen and turn back into a starter, but we'll see how it goes. The only other one that really would compete for the spot is Joe Flacco. And honestly, I think Shedeur Sanders has the skill set and at least the potential that the Browns may say, you know what, let's go forward with the young guy.
Or they could just start Flacco and let him sit behind him.
Yeah.
But, they also got a first-round pick for next year. So this might be the year, prove it. Let's see what you got, kid.
That's the good thing about trading away the Travis Hunter pick. I still say they should have went with Travis Hunter at number 2 instead of trading it away to Jacksonville. However, I do want to go to this soundbite real quick because I do not agree with this just going forward. But Mark Zinno believes that none of this is going to matter because Trevor's just way too mediocre.
Your problem in Jacksonville is you have a very mediocre quarterback that you just paid $250 million to. That's the reality. Your number 1 overall draft pick in Trevor Lawrence has not panned out like a number 1 overall draft pick. There are at least a dozen quarterbacks better than him in the league right now. And that's not where you want the guy that you just paid $250 million to be. Travis Hunter does not fix Trevor Lawrence's mediocrity. And to trade away a future first-round pick and give away the assets that you gave away to get, and this isn't an indictment on Hunter as a player, he could be very, very good, but unless your name is Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, I haven't seen a receiver make a quarterback better.
Mediocre? I mean, granted, he plays for Jacksonville. Let's again remember that. And as I've said since the start of this show on radio, Jacksonville has done nothing to help Trevor at all. But mediocre? I don't know about that.
I mean, his best years was when he had weapons.
I mean,
he's got a weapon. He's got to be happy knowing Hunter's over there.
Right.
But
outside of his freshman year, outside of his rookie year in the NFL, he's actually been pretty studly. The only time they got to the playoffs was an early exit, though. Obviously, they lost to the Chargers in a comeback, but I wouldn't call Trevor mediocre. That's a little bit of a stretch. I think this could greatly benefit him, but how are you going to play Travis? Are we going to make Travis play wide receiver primarily and then cornerback on certain downs? Or is it going to be the other way around where they play him more at cornerback and he only plays maybe certain packages at wide receiver or maybe running back?
I know Hunter has said after he was drafted that he had both coordinators on the phone. So
they have plans for it.
Yeah.
But again,
which one is it? And which one's going to be the main start?
Right. And burning the candle at both ends, again, is going to really shorten his career, which sucks. That's going to bite him in the butt eventually.
And then, just breaking down that trade, Jacksonville received Hunter with the third pick. And then they got Tootin, the Virginia Tech running back, and the safety out of Navy, while the Browns received Mason Graham, which is a solid pickup.
It really is.
I wasn't expecting them to go defensive line, but we talked about that on Friday, how, teaming up with
Miles
is only going to be a benefit. But then they got 2 running backs out of that draft. Yeah. And then a first-round draft pick.
And you know what's funny? Let's talk about that first running back real quick, too, because did anybody see the story that he wasn't even by the phone and mom had to pick up the phone for him?
Is that the one that was at the bathroom?
Yeah, he was in the bathroom when the Browns called. I was like, oh, hey, he took the Browns to the Super Bowl a little early now, didn't he?
Well, let's go to a break because we're also going to talk about some pranksters over the weekend.
I thought that was funny.
But let us know how you think, how your team drafted. 842-2000, and we'll talk about these pranksters because there was one that the Shedeur one that made the headlines.
I am ashamed. I am ashamed as a Falcons fan.
And then the Falcons were involved, but there was also a few other players that got pranked, and we'll talk more about that. Plus, we'll have Olivia coming in at 7:30 to talk about this donation drive, how you can help local athletes get the gear that they need, and we're going to help out. Coming up at 7:30 right here on the ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And before we get done with our draft talk over the weekend, we got to talk prank calls. Because am I the only one that's just like, dude, can we get over this?
Yes.
Like, it's always some little white boy in his dormitory thinking he's the funniest guy in the world. He's recording. He's going to put it on Instagram and go viral. Get over yourself.
Right.
You're not going to be Logan Paul. You're not. It's not funny. It's really not. Like, these guys have worked their ass off to get where they are. And you're trying to make a joke. I get it. Don't get me wrong. But like, Bart Simpson stopped doing this years ago on The Simpsons because it got dull.
Yeah. I mean, there was a whole show, Crank Yankers.
Yeah, that no longer exists. That is hilarious. By
Yes,
the way.
that's a
I
great
love that show. But they're not calling NFL draftees who are waiting for the call of their life.
And then there was rumors that, it started. I had a couple people hit me up and said, oh, it was the Giants GM's daughter that goes to that school. And I was like, oh, that makes sense because the Giants were in the mix for Shador. And then you told me, okay, it was the Falcons coordinator's son.
Yeah, ESPN reported yesterday that apparently it was the son of Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, who apparently his son found this or saw the number on an iPad that was left out, wrote down the number, and scurried off back to his dormitory. And that's where the call was made. But again, the chutzpah on you guys to not only record it, but then put it up online for views.
That's where they screwed up.
Come on, dude. Like, this isn't one of the, it doesn't look good.
Then the whole apology, which sounded scripted.
I'm not even going to get into that.
And now the NFL has talked about they're investigating. I don't think they'll do anything about it, but maybe they should.
The team itself came out and said they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Atlanta's not going to punish Jeff for this. And probably as they shouldn't, although you probably should get at least a slap on the wrist for leaving your iPad out for people to see, big dummy.
Yeah.
Especially with confidential, information on it, phone numbers, all that type of stuff. But then again, maybe you just don't send out that email to coordinators. Maybe we just send that to general managers and owners. And if you're not inside the draft room at that time, you'll have to be, sent the number by somebody who is. Like, got to do something to lock down these numbers quickly, because this isn't a cell phone that Shador has had for a long time. This is one that he literally had given to him by, I think it was Boost Mobile.
Yeah, it was a burner
draft
phone just for that.
So, like, this was a number that was completely new. Nobody had it. Not even his dad had it. Like, so this was just a really bad look. And he's not the only one. Apparently, tight end Tyler Warren got a call claiming to be the Jets before him.
Which turned out a positive thing, because he's probably like, thank God I'm not a Jet.
He's like, all the people that have gone to the Jets. It's like, please, God, no. My career, it's so close to being.
But according to Pro Sports, Jordan Schultz this morning, he also said that Bond, he went undrafted, also received a call saying he was getting picked up. And I sent you the video. It's pretty rough.
Again, you're not funny. This isn't something that's going to magically get you on Kill Tony. Like, stop, guys. Like, this isn't a thing that you should be doing. Like,
I kind of felt bad.
Honestly, all I'm seeing it as is jealousy. That's all I'm seeing it as. These guys are waiting for their lives to change and to go be able to play the game they love forever, or for the rest of their careers at least. And you're jealous of that. And that's like, and you think you're going to get your 2 seconds of fame based off of their time. And honestly, it's never happened. None of these prank calls have ever really, this is the biggest one, honestly. And it's because it's a son of a defensive coordinator in the league, in my opinion. If it was any random kid, like if it was the story about the New York Giants GM's daughter going to Ole Miss and just gave the phone number to somebody, it really wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I was figuring like an ex-girlfriend or something. But going back to the Bond, were you surprised at all that the Texas receiver Isaiah Bond went undrafted?
A little bit. He's a really good receiver, but obviously we've seen a lot of stories out there that undrafted free agents still have a shot at making the team. You just got to show out in minicamps.
I mean, speaking of that, Shiloh got picked up after the draft.
That actually made. Did you see the video of Shiloh and Shador talking after Shador got drafted?
After he said he was firing his dad for
Yeah,
for
well,
his agent.
that was funny. Shiloh became one of my favorite players.
Yes, and I was hoping Miami was going to pick him up
I
because
did too, but Tampa Bay ended up with him. Who honestly, I doubt he actually gets a starting job right away. But if he makes the squad, it'd be really cool to see him and Antoine Whitfield Jr. right next to each other. You want to talk about some football legacies right there. But honestly, I'm referring to the video where he looked at Shador and was like, you know what? You should just call them back and tell them to pick me. And I was like, I feel so bad for you. Cause like how many brothers going into the draft at the same time have had this happen and they're like, I can't do that. Like, that's not how this works, bud. If I was the first round pick, maybe first overall, I can make that happen. But like a 5th round draft pick, sorry, bud. Plus, Cleveland didn't have any more draft picks after that. They traded all of them away to get Shador. So,
and speaking with Tampa after they picked up Shiloh, but during the draft, which was just a curveball, but they got the lightest and heaviest players in the NFL history over the weekend. They got
wild.
Desmond Watson at 6'6", 464 pounds. Try running through that hole.
That's going to be, him and Vita Vea. Jeez.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be a massive defensive line.
That's a 2-man line right there.
Yeah. And then obviously Tez Johnson being the other one, the wide receiver from Oregon at $150. I like Tez's story, though. Tez is the adopted brother, I guess, is the best way to put it, of Bo Nix, the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, who used to play with Tez at Oregon. And it's just a really cool story. Like he's turned his life around after a really rough start and has really just grown into his own. Now $150 in the NFL. That's going to be rough. You're going to have to put on some weight, bud.
There's some kickers that are bigger than that.
I know. And like, you're going to get crushed going across the middle, but he's fast enough and nimble enough that he could be a good slot receiver for you. So hopefully he can put on some poundage and maybe make something happen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward.
Well, coming up after this break, we're going to welcome Olivia Willis from Centennial High. She's got the Gear Up for Greatness coming up.
Real quick, though, before we go to break, since we got a minute here, who did you think was the biggest winner and the biggest loser of this year's draft? Have you had a chance to think about it, really?
I couldn't tell you that none of them have played any football. So
can I just throw out my biggest loser?
That's my biggest thing is these draft grades.
I understand.
That's like giving somebody a grade that hasn't gone to school yet.
But the one team to me that had the biggest WTF moments and what are you doing moments, can we talk about the New Orleans Saints for a second? Take a Tyler Shuck in the 2nd round over all of these other quarterbacks that could have probably been much better choices for you. You took a tackle from Texas who nobody really even saw going in the 1st round, let alone in the first 9 picks. I don't know what the heck they're doing over there right now in New Orleans, but if you're a Saints fan, or at least the ones that I've talked to, you're not happy with what has happened at all.
And I heard Aaron Rodgers' name back up in the mix with New Orleans.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. See, and this is what we were talking about. We were wondering, where's Aaron going to go? But I mean, Kellen Moore, new head coach of the Saints, has come out and already had his comments on Tyler Shuck and how excited he is to play with him or to work with him. So let's hear him.
We're really, really excited about the opportunity to get Tyler. 32 starts. He faced a lot of adversity through his career, battled through obviously multiple unfortunate injuries that kind of took him through a navigating process. But, as we went through this process, just the more touching points we had with Tyler, the more impressed we got. He was a guy who went through this whole process. I think it's unique when you have a guy who went through the Senior Bowl, did the whole entire combine, went through the visits. Scott went out there and saw him at Louisville. We had a 30 visit with him. Every interaction just, really enforced, the player that he was. And so as you go through this QB process, obviously never easy decisions with that. Just felt like he was a really good quarterback. He was ready. He's prepared. Obviously, he's been through a lot in a good way. And so he's ready to compete in our quarterback room as it plays itself out.
The Saints do know they just drafted the second coming of Brandon Weeden, right? This kid's been in the NCAA longer than most. He
7 years.
He was literally he was teammates with one of the tight ends for the Saints who has been in the league for 6 years. He was the backup, for all of you who are wondering. He was the backup to Justin Herbert at Oregon. This guy is old as heck, and he's not going to be any. I'm sorry, he's not going to be any good. I feel as a Falcons
we'll save
fan,
that clip in case.
I know
Kellen Moore is a quarterback genius. So if anybody's going to get anything out of him,
is he though?
I think he is.
I mean, look, I am a big fan of what he did in college at Boise State, but I don't think he's really done anything to be claimed as a quarterback genius just yet. But that's just my personal.
What he's done in offenses with Kellen Moore, the offenses have always flipped over. And I would say I'm not going to grade any player that hasn't taken a snap in the NFL yet. Whether it's, you can call him Brandon Weeden, you can call him Derek Carr, but the Saints need a quarterback, and obviously Kellen Moore knows his offense, and he probably sees something that he can get. But there's also talk Aaron Rodgers. There's also Cousins that's out there on a trade block. I mean, I don't think a lot of these teams. It's like I was trying to have this conversation with my brother. He's like, "Oh, the Dolphins this and not. We have no roster. It's April. Just relax. The offseason, they haven't even gotten to camp yet. They're just doing voluntary workouts. I mean, you're acting like they're playing next Sunday and the team's ready to roll.
I get you. I'm just saying that, like, I kind of see where your brother's coming from, though, because we are out of the offseason. It's not the offseason anymore.
Oh, it is still middle of offseason.
Again, I personally believe the draft is the end of the offseason, and now we're kicking up preseason.
They don't even have the playbooks yet.
Well, that's true. Some of them don't. The defensive the coordinators most likely do.
But let's get into this, because I also want to talk about the Miami pick. I also want to talk about what Pittsburgh did, which was, if I was going to say any surprise, I was going to say Pittsburgh, because I was expecting that. Okay, it's going to be a quarterback now. Oh, nope. It's going to be a quarterback now. Nope.
They like Will Howard. It's Big Ben 2.0, but we can get into that after we talk to Olivia real quick, because we do got to take a break, pay some bills. And on the other side of the break, as Sparky said, we're going to talk to Olivia Willis, who is she the creator of Gear Up for Greatness?
I believe so.
Started this? So she is the creator of Gear Up for Greatness, a drive to pick up some used to brand new football gear to help kids out with this upcoming football camp that is hosted by Christian McCaffrey. We will talk to her right on the other side of this break. You listen to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. And don't forget, you can watch us live on YouTube at the Early Bird Special. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I am Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. And we have a very special guest in the building with us today. Hi, this is Olivia Wilson, Junior at Centennial the Gear Up for Great Drive. Now tell everybody what you're doing and what you're trying to get accomplished.
um, and I'm trying to raise gently used equipment and cleats and all things for the participants at the camp.
Okay. Now, when you say gently used, how used are we talking here? Obviously, no one can bring in their gear from back in the 1980s, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just after a couple of games, it can be a little beat up, but as long as it works.
It's got to be usable,
Yes.
obviously, for
Yes.
everybody. Okay.
Yes.
Now, what brought this up? How did you get this going? Like, what brought this to your mind that you wanted to do this?
Well, first I saw on Instagram that at first Deebo Samuel was putting on the camp,
Right.
but unfortunately, after getting traded to the Commanders, he's in Washington now. So
And we should say this already. Olivia is a Niner fan.
Yes, yes.
So you're not very happy about this, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very upset.
Oh.
But I put in an application because I wanted to do social media and take pictures of the players, and I thought it'd be so cool. But I also wanted to do a passion project. I'm starting my college application, so I wanted to get a head start on that. And so I get to be around football because I do want to go into sports journalism and communication. So I thought it'd be a great experience.
Well, as somebody who went into sports journalism, hope you can actually do that. It's a lot of fun. It's a
Yes.
lot of work. I'm going to warn you right now, but it is a lot of fun.
Yes.
And you get to do a lot of what you're trying to do, which is go meet these athletes, go take pictures of them and stuff, which personally, I agree with you. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yes.
But I'm a geek like that. So it is what
me
it is.
too.
But at this point, you're have you gotten anything? Do you know where they can drop all this stuff off at? Like, where? What are some of the details in which if someone wants to come and donate to you?
So I've had a few setbacks just with putting up donation boxes for public businesses. I've been trying a lot of gyms and churches, but we do have one at the River Lakes Church. That's our first box. And it has a QR code that links to the GoFundMe that we set up and the personal Instagram account that has it. But I'm just constantly posting it and letting people know. But I also put up flyers at school too with the QR code so people can connect to that with that too.
Okay, fantastic. Do you have the QR? Because if you give us the QR code, we could always put it up on our socials as well. And
I do have it.
Okay,
yeah, and I found our Instagram page this morning. Just look up Gear Up for Greatness. We'll share it in our notes. And the actual drive, is that still going on May 24th?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Okay. So that will be the Olive Branch Community Church. So you can get all the info. It's over off of Olive Drive. And after the show, I'll talk to your mom because I have another business that I work for. Maybe I could help you out sharing the info and maybe even getting a box over there. So
that'd be great.
We'll definitely help you out. That camp that she's talking about, which was the formerly known as the Deebo Samuel camp, which is a Christian McCaffrey camp, is June 13th. At BHS, I believe from 8 to noon, and signups are still up. I believe it's Flexworks that still is doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, obviously you're a little disappointed because Deebo's not going to be there, but Christian's coming, so that's got to be pretty exciting,
amazing.
right?
Very
I mean,
exciting.
my nephew will be there, and he's even more excited. He gets to play with Christian now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait.
And God only knows, he might bring Kittle with him. Brock could come. You never know.
Yes.
Now, obviously, being a Niner fan, is there anybody that you're kind of really hoping shows up? Is there like a super? Are you a fan more of one player than the other?
I mean, obviously McCaffrey, but also Fred Warner's doing a camp too, so I'm hoping to do that one as well because they're my favorites, and Kittle. I hope everybody comes.
They're fantastic.
I'd be happy if Shanahan was there too.
That's a new one. There you go. You don't hear
that
Shanahan name thrown out there very often. That's awesome. Okay, well, now I'm going to ask you a question real quick because this is the topic that I just am very curious about, especially with somebody your age. What is your thought on the entire getting girls into tackle football? Do you think that this is something that needs to happen, or not needs to happen, but could happen?
Yeah.
Do you think
I think
something?
so. There's a lot of mean girls out there who would be good at tackling.
I've played and coached girls that have been meaner than boys. So
when I went to Ridgeview, we had a girl, Heather Hunt, that played on our offensive line, and she was mean. And I played I played backup safety and quarterback, but she would hit, and you wouldn't even know because she was a big one, and she would smash us. And she did not talk. She wasn't a trash talker. She would let her hits. I mean,
that's usually how it is too. They just want to be out there to hit somebody.
We just had our powder puff game where the girls play flag football, and it was almost tackle football. So I think they
really,
yeah.
Dang, you guys got physical, man. Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen, my dad is a longtime soccer referee, so I go out there and watch them all the time. And girls soccer has always been way more physical than guys soccer. It actually very much like it's impressive how physical some of these women can get. So that's why I love to hear from people, especially your age, because this is a topic that I think that people need to start talking about a little bit more. And getting girls into these types of sports. So it's really encouraging to know that someone your age thinks the same way.
Yeah,
so.
I'd play.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Are you on the team or no?
No, I said I would play.
Oh, I would play. I'm sorry that you said I did play.
Yeah.
Okay.
What position?
Maybe nose guard.
Nose guard. See, look at that.
D-line. Yeah.
She's already ready to wreck games, man. That's a good sign right there.
As a Warner fan, I could see the linebacker.
Yeah.
Coach, you got a junior. I'm telling you right now, you can go grab her right now. I promise.
Well, how did you become a 49ers fan?
It's in my blood. I think I watched football. I started watching football more than cartoons, honestly. But my dad, and then
you kept in the family.
Yes,
I'm a Dolphins fan, and that was the same way.
See, I'm the only person that goes out of the norm when it comes to that. I did not want to cheer for any team that my family cheered.
I was not like that.
All my brothers were Raiders fans, so I grew up watching Dan Marino and the Dolphins, and that was probably the best football I've seen since it's been 20-something years.
And obviously, she has grown up during some of the best times to be a Niner fan.
Yes.
You got the Jim Harbaugh times. You got the Colin Kaepernick era, all of that type of stuff. So that must have been fun to watch.
Yeah. The Super Bowl is not so fun.
But I mean, you win some and you lose some. You learn that. I'm a Falcons fan, so you're talking to somebody who knows well about that.
So, for those who are listening who want to help, is that the easiest way? Just follow you on Instagram?
Yes.
Okay. So get the Instagram out there again one more time for people who didn't hear you.
It's just Gear Up for Greatness, Bako at Gear Up for Greatness. And then we also have a QR code that we'll post, or hopefully. And then, sorry, I didn't mean to plug myself like that.
No, you're fine. Plug yourself. That's how this works, son. Go for it.
But it has a QR code that links directly to the Instagram account where you can get more information, and the GoFundMe as well.
Oh, looking beyond this event, is there any future things that you're looking forward to or you're going to get with the community? I know you're only a junior and you're already starting that fire. Is there any, other events you have planning? I know you talked about another football camp.
Yes, hopefully, if we have like leftover gear that kids didn't taking it to the Fred Warner camp would be amazing too. But just promoting that one as well.
Okay. And real quick, just because I'm curious about this. Now, when it comes to the gear that you are giving to these kids, do these kids get to keep the gear? Does it go back to you and then given out again? How does that work?
They get to keep the gear.
They get to keep the gear altogether. Okay, fantastic. That's cool.
And then we have from the GoFundMe, we've ordered stuff and we have all different sizes, all different mouth guards. So it's personal to you.
Fantastic.
That's awesome, man.
This is really cool.
It is really, really cool what you're doing for these kids, for the community, and really just building the future, the sports journalism. As soon as you said that, I saw Burdick's face light up.
There's not a lot of people that want to do this anymore, Sparky. We gotta recruit when we can. Okay.
Exactly. I get it. But I really appreciate you coming out. I know you have school today, but I'll link up with your mom after the show, and we'll definitely, get on board and see what we can do to help out.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for coming, hon.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break real quick, pay some bills. We'll talk more NFL draft on the other side. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, you can watch us live 7 to 9 on YouTube at the Early Bird Special. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burke. That is Sparky. Big thank you to Olivia Willis for joining us. She was great. She's
Killer,
fantastic.
dude. That's awesome.
Go
She's only a
follow 'em.
junior.
Yeah, she's only a junior in high school at Centennial. Absolute geniuses over at Centennial. I'll tell you what. But go follow her. Gear up for greatness, Bako. Go donate. Go give some of these kids some gear. I know you got something. I know you can. Or go pick something up and go drop it off. You can go down to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy a pair of gloves and go drop it off for a good cause. Some of these kids need this.
It's big for these kids too.
It is.
I mean, I remember growing up, I took my little brother to the Joey Porter football camp, and that really opened his eyes because not only did he get to get on field at Foothill with Joey Porter, Williams, and Ronnie Brown, all these players that came out, it's just a really good experience, especially at that age. And the ages are 6 to 16 for the if you want your boy or your kids to get into this camp.
Absolutely. And honestly, as I've said in the past, if you want, or if your kid wants to get somewhere or wants to play something professional, want to do anything in the professional realm, get them around people that do it professionally, because that's how they're going to learn the most. That's how they're going to be find the right habits and the right things to do. And just because your Pee-wee football coach tells you that this is the way does not always mean this is the way. I promise you.
That's coming from a former football coach.
It is. It is coming from a former Pee-wee football coach. Okay, we only scored 1 touchdown my first coaching year. That's how successful we were.
Sounds like my freshman year at Ridgeview.
Absolutely. I mean, again, my freshman year at Garces, but we can go down the line, my friend. I have not been around very successful football teams, and that's because we haven't really had professionals help us. I'm just saying. But this is what it is. But go donate. Seriously, this is a very good cause. This is something that these kids, they need. Not everybody has the utilities and the gear that they need for these types of camps. These kids need cleats. They need gloves at the very least. And honestly, it's a really cool experience. Let him go hang out with a pro for a couple days. And I guarantee you he's going to bring more than just himself. There's going to be other guys from the Niners team that'll probably be at this camp as well. So it'll be a really cool experience. So go sign up. Flexwork, again, I believe is the group putting it on. You can still go buy and register your kid still in there. I believe it's around $100. Something like that.
And I know we'll share the QR code to help out Olivia's donation drive. But going back to the draft, like I said before she came on, is I was surprised that the Steelers didn't jump on Shedeur or really any quarterback early. But what do you think about? They had a weird.
Tomlin had a weird answer to why they took the D tackle from Oregon, and he said that they had immediate needs on the defensive line that they had to fix now. So they also went out and got, and this was a very interesting pick to me. I like this pick a lot, but they went and got defensive end Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, as well as quarterback Will Howard from Ohio State. Both I actually enjoy these picks quite a bit. But that's actually what I wanted to ask you, my friend. What possibly could Tomlin be talking about that they desperately needed to address right now? Personally, the only thing I can think of, maybe there's some legitimacy to this TJ Watt thing.
I can see it.
Maybe he might want to move on or retire. Maybe his career's done. I don't know.
I know he's unhappy with the contract. It's been an off-season.
Why else would you
headline
beef up the defensive line, especially since, well, I know Cam Hayward, as much as Steeler fans don't want to hear this, he's reaching the end of his career. Yeah. Maybe 1 to 2 more years. So having a guy like Harmon come in would be great because you can learn from the best, arguably, defensive tackle that you've ever had. And, well, actually, I shouldn't say that because Mean Joe. But it is a weird sign to me that your head coach came out and said we had immediate needs at the defensive line we had to fix. And also a really weird story coming out of this. I was going to save this for Wild Thing Wednesday, but it's kind of a weird one. The mother of that defensive tackle, Harmon, passed away moments after he was drafted. You want to talk about somebody who was probably holding out for that one moment just to see her baby succeed in whatever way he wanted to. That is one of the most wholesome stories I've heard in sports in quite some time. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family as well. But I don't know, did you hear about this one?
No, I didn't.
It's a crazy story. The mama was going through some stuff health-wise for years. They didn't expect her to last as long as she did. And then just hours after, I believe, he got the call, she passed away. And it's just one of those crazy stories. But not to put everybody on a somber note here. Going into this whole Will Howard situation, though, as you were asking, I like this pick because he reminds me a lot of Big Ben, at least body wise. Now, play wise, again, left to be desired.
I
But
was gonna say, is that somebody that can just jump in and be day one starter?
no, he'd have to work his way up, I feel. But again, we're talking about a national champion here. I was very surprised to see that he was so low on people's draft boards, especially under guys like Dylan Gabriel and Tyler Shuck, who, I mean, let's be honest, Tyler Shuck, again, 20-plus-year-old, and I don't mean on the bottom half, and he is not at all
age shaming him.
I'm sorry. Look, man.
I know. I heard it all weekend.
Brandon Whedon, Josh McCown. Like, I can go down a list of guys here that everybody just for some reason believes, oh, he's going to be the next guy, even though they're pushing 30 already in their second year. Shoot, Russ at one point. Russell Wilson was old when he came in, but he's the only exception, I feel. I don't believe that Shuck is going to be the guy for the Saints. I don't think that the Saints believe Shuck is going to be the guy for the Saints. Cam Jordan has already come out saying, what the hell are we doing? And for good reason.
Well, going back to Will Howard, I mean, going into a quarterback room in Pittsburgh right now is probably beneficial for him.
Absolutely.
But does it go back I mean, I've heard all the sports shows since
it was
Friday,
right over my shoulder earlier.
Since Friday, it's like, oh, is that just mean that Aaron Rodgers is locked in? No, nothing is locked in with that guy. And two, you know, you don't want to back yourself into a corner when you can trade for somebody like, you know, just Kirk Cousins, for example. But you don't want to show your cards because now Atlanta's got the up on you because they know you need him more than they do, and they, you know, the raising price could, you know, just be outside of what you wanted to spend on a quarterback.
Honestly, I'd believe Aaron goes there over anywhere, to be honest. But it's like you said, he's come out and said he's not tied to anybody. He has no expectations at all yet. He just doesn't know what he's going to do.
But when you're going to a team that's got Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson,
you got to be feeling pretty dang good. No matter where you were drafted, you got to be feeling pretty dang good.
This is what Tomlin had to say about the Howard signing.
I think, like a lot of people, how he responded to that adversity at the end of their regular season and the leadership and playmaking that he displayed throughout the playoffs was really attractive. And it's really what NFL football is about. There's going to be some adversity. How you respond to it defines you and your football team, particularly from the quarterback position.
He exudes this type of toughness that I love. And that's why I don't really understand. I get the injury history. That's probably the only reason why he slid down so far. But Will Howard honestly could be a pretty solid quarterback for the Steelers. I almost said the Saints. For the Steelers.
They wish.
Yeah, really. Well, they could have. That's the problem.
No.
You had the opportunity. That's why I stand by my statement. The biggest loser of this year's draft will be the Saints at the end of the day.
There's always the quarterback that changes the outline.
I know.
So, I mean, nobody expected the Brock Purdy going back to the Niners. But
okay, but that is a vastly different comparison.
I get it though, but NFL is a crazy animal, man.
Yeah.
I root for all these guys to be successful, obviously. But I mean, I've also heard, I didn't pull the clip because I just didn't want to hear him. But the old receiver from the Cowboys, Dez Bryant, was going out and saying, you know, with the Dolphins getting Ewers, that he can start day one, start him over. And I said, all the tape and stuff I've read about him, it looks like he gets streaky, but he doesn't know how to read defenses. And that's going to backfire in pro football with the NFL. So I'll get into the Ewers pickup later. But my question to wrap up this hour before we get into the NBA is, do you see the Steelers almost moving away from the Rodgers talk, or do you think it's kind of Rodgers' choice? And
no, it's at this point it's Rodgers' choice, and
I hate that.
They're going to be, them and the Saints specifically will be on the talking end of these conversations for the foreseeable future.
So say he comes out in a couple of weeks and says, you know what, I'm going to retire, I'm going to hang it up. He wanted to go to Minnesota, number one, and he just, I mean, after they spent a bunch of money on DK and all this, then the Steelers are just in that position.
Look, man,
we're talking about like the Saints.
Mike Tomlin, again, arguably should be the greatest coach of all time, but he believes in this quarterback room. I don't see it besides Will Howard. I mean, again, but Will Howard also Jerry's out, just like Kenny Pickett. So we'll see what happens. I think he likes the toughness. I think he is a perfect quarterback for Pittsburgh in terms of being tough.
I'm glad you brought up the Big Ben because that's immediately what I thought when I saw him.
He just reminds me of Big Ben. That's all it is. But Aaron Rodgers might be on the way. That's all I got to say. We'll talk NBA playoffs on the other side of the break. You listen to the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2. Yes, that is Sparky you hear singing. Don't make him say any different. He's got the voice of an angel.
Happy Monday. I'm excited, dude. I'm not going to see Sinners again.
Are you really? I got to go see it last week. Dude, it was a really good movie.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for a good vampire flick, honestly, go check out Michael B. Jordan's Sinners. It is between him, Haley. I mean, there were characters in there I haven't seen, or actors. I mean, I'm sorry, characters, actors in there I haven't seen in a long time.
Is that Josh Allen's old lady?
Yes, that is Josh Allen's old lady. Okay. The big guy from 8 Mile, I am drawing a blank on his name, but he is in it. He's fantastic. He plays a guy named Cornbread, who's
Coach
funny.
Mason and I was like, what is that guy
No,
from?
I immediately saw him. I'm sitting next to my buddy, and my best friend's next to him, and I'm geeking out. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen this guy in so long. And my buddy leans over. He's like, bro, okay, I recognize him, but what is he from? I'm like, bro, that's the big guy from 8 Mile. That's Rabbit's homie in the back seat. Like, that's the guy who is just hilarious.
The big old teddy bear.
Yeah, he's great. And immediately we were geeking out over it for like 5 minutes until my best friend got really angry at us and told us to shut up.
Well, as soon as I thought, okay, it's a vampire movie, I don't want to watch it.
Same. I usually am not one of those people that like these old school, I shouldn't say old school, these monster flicks, these vampires, zombies, like werewolves. I'm so just drawn out of those.
Me too.
Usually they suck. They're not very good. But
Well,
honestly,
Sinners.
Nosferatu and Sinners have been 2 back-to-back pretty dang good vampire movies. I'll
That
give
one
them
was
that.
good, and probably the last week that you'll kind of see it in like the IMAX or the
Yeah.
D-Box, because Thunderbolts is coming out this weekend. Thank God, because I'm looking forward to that one.
And honestly, dude, like Sinners had to be one of the most fun movies I had watching like in a long time. Like the theater wasn't exactly packed out, but it was still pretty like filled with people, and everybody was having a good time. Like it's one of those movies where you just have to sit there and just enjoy it, turn your brain off for a while, and just remember how it was.
I've been happy with the last few movies because we went and saw Novocaine and then the Captain America, which both of them are now streaming on Hulu or on Vudu. So we watched Novocaine over the weekend, but I'm looking forward to Thunderbolt. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sinners
Honestly,
again.
It's a good thing for me and for us, obviously being movie fans, because movies are back. Go back to your theater, man. Go actually enjoy a movie outside of your home, because I get it. Home theaters are good. Home theaters are great. We all got used to them during COVID. Go watch a movie at the theater, man.
Because if you don't, they're probably going to start
And
closing
honestly,
down.
I didn't get to mention this last weekend, but for all my fellow Star Wars fans, we had the anniversary of Revenge of the Sith over the weekend. Got to go see that as well. Fantastic.
I thought about you because they were showing Happy Gilmore. There was an anniversary showing at the Reading Cinemas.
Oh, see, yeah, you should have told me about that. I would have gladly go see Happy one. I can't wait for Happy 2.
And that's this month, right? Or April? No, it's May.
May. It'll be out in May, which, again, fantastic film. Can't wait to watch that. But that's going straight to Netflix, so you have to watch that at home.
So NBA playoffs, there's a couple of them of the first round are already closed up. But NBA scores from Saturday, OKC completing that sweep over the Grizzlies, 117-115.
Now, again, not surprising to anybody, Ja Morant did not play in this game. Although I have to bring this up to you because I've said this to myself a couple times now. The Memphis Grizzlies know how to play without Ja Morant because of how often he's gone, much like Zion Williamson outside of the injury situation. Should they just move on from Ja? Is it time for Memphis to just say, you know what, let's cut the cord? This team plays better without him. The 2 games where he didn't play, they actually got it into single digits.
Yeah, but they only lost by 2 the game. I mean,
I'm just
that's
saying,
the closest they've been.
Your team is actually better without Ja Morant. Now, again, this took a career game from Scottie Pippen Jr., so don't expect that every night unless he turns into that player randomly.
I love that dude.
But I've just been mulling that over in my head. Is it potentially time for Memphis to move on from Ja Morant? I know how crazy that sounds, but honestly,
I'd take him in Chicago.
The amount of distractions that come with them. Can you rely on him to not get out or to not stay out of trouble? And I mean, is he more trouble than he's worth at this point?
Was it 2 out of the last 3 seasons they've been knocked out of the first round?
Yep.
And the other year they didn't make the playoffs.
And I mean, Bane had 30, Pippen, or I'm sorry. No, Bane had 20, Pippen had 30. Almada, the other guy who stepped in to be the starter, had 20. I say this team plays better without Ja Morant.
Yeah.
It really does. It plays smoother going through Desmond Bane than it does Ja Morant. But the other question I have to say on the other side here, does this benefit the Thunder or does it actually hurt them? Because you're going to be waiting a little bit with this Clippers-Nuggets series going at least 7. I have to feel this game was way too close over the weekend. And you may pick up some rust here waiting for who the heck or trying to wait for your next opponent.
I mean, it could, but that's going to be a tough matchup. Either team that they play is gonna bring it, and that's something we had talked about before because OKC was kind of waiting when you're top 1, 2, you're waiting for the play-in to finish. I mean, OKC looked good, but they didn't look good on Saturday. I mean, they barely got by Memphis. I don't know if that was more of the just adapting to not having to worry about Ja, but I mean. I still think OKC is a lock for the championship on the conference championship game. But it depends. We've been talking about matchups since the playoffs started, and we're probably going to try to pull Snacks back in this week before round 2. But that's probably something that he would know more. I think since they're young, I don't think it'll hurt too much. That's usually when the veterans get to rest, and that's more beneficial for them. But yeah, I would think. I mean, it probably at least 4 or 5 maybe even longer, because that was another game on Saturday, was the Nuggets tying up the series 2-2 with the win over the Clippers, which was a hell of a game.
Yep. Again, 2-point game. But I have to highlight this again because I've said it a couple times now. Joker had a 30-20 game, did everything he could, and got no help from anybody else, even though the starters, every starter, mind you, played 40-plus minutes. Is that sustainable? I say no. And you don't have Russ off the bench. Your team arguably looked better without Russ, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to go out that far of a limb here. I just don't know how good this looks if you're a Denver Nuggets team in terms of a win. You needed more of like a blowout win to bounce back from the blowout loss you had in game 3. So it's kind of concerning to me still that the Denver Nuggets need everything from their star just to get a 2-point win against the Clippers. That's not,
and
really
that's been the story of the series.
Yeah. And again, is that sustainable? I'd say no.
You still going with the Clips?
I think the Clippers pull this out. The Clippers are playing great basketball. Like, don't get me wrong. When Kawhi has a game like Joker did, where he can't miss, he scores 30 points and stuff, they're blowing him out. So when he has a mid-tier off game like he did yesterday, they're losing by 2. I think if you're a Clippers fan, you're looking pretty happy, or you're sitting pretty happy right now. It's a good chance you move on to the next round.
And then going to the East, the Cavs, or no, I'll keep it. The Warriors go up 2-1 over Houston, and it looks serious with Butler. The more I read about it, prepping for the show, I believe I said, or they had mentioned, the media is saying, he's a 50-50, but it seems to be a lot worse. The last thing I saw is he has no mobility, and it's just about playing through the pain and taking painkillers or whatever. But it looks like the guy cannot walk right now. He's barely walking. He said that he can't put any weight on, and that he can't move well enough to play basketball at this moment. So it doesn't sound like a 50-50. It looks like it's a lot worse. But Golden State going up 2-1 over Houston. I know game 4 is tonight.
Yep. 7:00. It be on TNT, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he plays. I think that you sit him for at least one more game and let him heal up on the hip. You saw the best out of your team in game 3. And my point that I want to make here more is this is a bad look for the Rockets, because once again, your star player, Jalen Green, single-digit points. Are you going to chalk this one up to nerves too? Because at this point right now, your team needs you, and you aren't showing up. You showed up for one game. Good for you. So does James Harden. This is where superstars are made. You're in the playoffs now. This is the big boy game. Granted, you want to be a superstar in this league, you got to show up right now if you are Jalen Green, because you cannot have another single-digit performance and expect to get out of this series. Not playing against Steph Curry. That is a Hall of Fame point guard you're matching up against. You better bring your A game. Otherwise, he's going to run you out of a gym. And that's exactly what happened in game 3. Steph got hot and he couldn't miss. Vintage Steph Curry in the playoffs, as we've seen up and down the court for years. And this is exactly what I was worried about when it came to the Rockets. Everybody said, oh, the Rockets are a talented team led by a very talented coach. Yes, you are, but you're young, you're inexperienced, and you don't know what it feels like to be under the limelight of the playoffs, especially the playoffs like we've seen this year, where they're letting everything go. They're really letting these guys get physical this year, and I like it. It's playoff basketball again. It's something that's very exciting. But if you are the Rockets, or at least a fan of the Houston Rockets, and I know there's a handful of you out there listening to us right now.
I know one.
I know of one too. Love you, Jimmy. But at this point right now, dude, you're in trouble. Because if your boy ain't going to show up, you guys might as well just stay in Houston, because you ain't coming back. It's just not happening. And I think the Warriors probably lock up a 3-1 lead today, especially after seeing what we saw 2 nights ago. And it just doesn't look good for you, because this is now 2 games that we saw your star do this. There's no guarantee he's not going to do it for the third.
I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we both picked the Warriors, but we expected a tougher series, and we'll see after tonight, because we'll be talking about it tomorrow. But
and Also, quick shout out to Steph, though, who passed Tony Parker for playoff points in his career. He's now 10th in the NBA all time in playoff points. And I didn't realize Tony Parker was actually up that high, to be honest with you. But
he
then
had
again,
many games.
Well, they were talking about LeBron. I didn't realize this until they said it last night, but LeBron has essentially played 3.5 extra seasons just in his playoff games. That's how many playoff games LeBron has been in. 3 seasons, guys. Like, we won't talk about him being a 20-plus vet. Add 3 years. 23. Like,
that's insane.
That's insane. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know we all love to hate on LeBron. I say we as in you guys on the internet because I don't hate on the guy.
Flop.
Again, all of our memes of LeBron are not me. I want you guys to know that it's not me posting.
That's
those.
me.
I know.
100%.
I know.
I'll tag my name in it next time too.
I know. Well, again, I don't care.
I'm so sick
post
of
what
LeBron.
you want, my friend. It's just good content.
But before we go into Sunday, because I know we're going to talk LeBron on Sunday's games.
Yeah, because that game was.
But
wild.
the Cavs, they're doing work, son. 3-0 lead.
We wrap
up
a
37-point win.
We wrap
on
up the
Saturday.
series tonight, baby.
I sure hope so.
We wrap up the series. I promised you, my friend, that the Cleveland Cavaliers would avenge your Bulls, and we have done exactly that.
So the same question to you, like you asked about OKC.
Does this make is it a bad look?
Does it make a difference with the wait? Because we'll be waiting at least a couple days.
Yes and no. I think it's a good thing because some pieces on the team, like your Darius Garlands, are still dealing with lingering injuries that obviously you need time to rest and, get better for. But yes, I do. I think you're right on this because we've seen in the last couple of years, Cleveland has swept certain teams or 1-5 and had to wait for the next series in order to find out who they were playing, and they end up coming out flat. They end up coming out, just not the same team. So I do think there's a little bit of a concern if you're a Cleveland Cavalier fan. And obviously I am rooting for them, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a concern because they've been through this already. It's the opposite of essentially what the Houston Rockets are dealing with. They've already been down this road. They know what they have to do to stay warm and stay fit for these certain situations. Some players, maybe not more than others. But guys like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, I'd expect them to be just as good no matter how many games you have to wait. And also, you have to look at it from the standpoint of I don't think the 4-5 series in the East is going to last nearly as long as the 4-5 series in the West, we saw last night, because the Bucks are done too.
Yep. And we'll get into that because we're going to recap Sunday's games, which were all good games except that one.
Oh, God. It was such a good Sunday of basketball.
But text in your projections or predictions of the NBA playoffs right now at 661-842-2000. And after this break, we'll recap Sunday's game and preview tonight's games right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Spark, I don't know. How did you feel? Do you think Saturday's games matters?
I love Sundays.
I think Sunday's games were a little bit better, but I have to agree with you. The ender of it all. I think Chuck said it beautifully. It was just boring. It was just boring. Like, there were moments where I was just sitting there thinking, I could be watching LFG right now. I could be watching NHL playoffs.
I need to
right
watch that
now.
new one.
There's two.
They didn't do one on WrestleMania weekend, did they?
No, that's what I'm saying. If you're an LFG fan or a WWE fan and you've been following Legends and Future Greats, their new I guess you can say it's a competitive show on A&E. I believe it's A&E.
I watch it on Hulu.
Yeah, I do as well. But you can check out 2 episodes that were out yesterday because they had to skip a week due to WrestleMania weekend. So that's kind of where I was at. But obviously, we had 4 games yesterday as well that we have to run down, my friend, starting with, wasn't it the Knicks game? Yeah.
They go up 3-1 with Detroit with the 94-93 win. And, of course, it ends with a little drama.
Man, again, for those of you who don't know, final seconds of the game, the Pistons had the ball down 1. There was a scrim for the ball. It was tipped out to Tim Hardaway in the corner. Josh Hart runs out to contest, bumps Tim Hardaway very clearly. No foul. And JB Bickerstaff, the head coach of the Pistons, is irate on the court when the timer runs out and there's no foul call for them and the game is over and the Knicks win in the Palace, extending the Pistons home losing streak in the playoffs to 9, longest in NBA history, unfortunately. I was really hoping they were going to break 2 streaks this postseason, but I guess we're going to have to wait for that. But here's JB Bickerstaff on what he believes happened in the final moments of this game.
Cade got his shot. He got to his spot and he got to his shot and, and had the shot that he liked and that we all like. And I trust Cade to take that shot, 100 times in a row. And, again, you go back and look at the film, the guy leaves his feet. There's contact on Tim Hardaway's jump shot. I don't know any other way around it. There's contact on his jump shot. The guy leaves his feet. He's at Timmy's mercy. And I repeat, there's contact on his jump shot.
I agree there was contact. It was a foul. I don't know what to say.
It was. It was definitely. And they even came out post game and said they missed it.
But I think Kenny the Jet Smith on NBA on TNT had a very good point. What does come out and saying it now have anything to do with it? What does this change? It doesn't change anything. You don't you shouldn't even say anything. You should really just move on because we all know you messed up. No one needs you to come out and say, oh, we're just in the era of transparency. We're going to tell you guys we messed up. We know
they messed up a few times in that second half.
Absolutely.
And if Detroit didn't have already used their challenge and lost it, they could have used it in the third and early in the fourth quarter as well.
Honestly, that is the big thing right there. JB Bickerstaff used their challenge with within the first 5 minutes of the game because Cade Cunningham swore to him he didn't foul. You can't do that. I think that's something that the NBA coaches got to get better about is utilizing the challenges. I think NFL coaches know how pivotal these challenges are, and NBA coaches are just now getting them, so they don't really understand that yet. Because I saw that a couple times in this weekend slate of games that you're calling a challenge on early fouls that you really shouldn't be calling these on. These are very ticky-tack. They don't affect the game at all.
Exactly.
So it's I didn't get that point of it, but I do agree with the sentiment that it really shouldn't have mattered that this came down to the final shot. The Pistons messed this up. The Pistons came into the fourth quarter with, I believe, an 11-point lead, let it go, and honestly had an abysmal shooting night from the floor. I think they shot 20-something% from 3. You can't win games that way. And honestly, they did great defensively. This is, I believe, their first loss while keeping a team under 100 points. But really boiling it down to the ref's bad call or no call is wrong here. I think this really falls on the Pistons because you guys let this game go. You should have ran away with this in the fourth quarter, and you let Karl Anthony Towns and Captain Crunch Time, as they were calling him. I like that nickname. I'm not gonna lie. Captain Crunch Time it fits. I like that. But yeah, no,
I think it's over.
Do you think it's over?
I
well,
think it's
you
over.
were hoping the Knicks were going to win this all together.
I got the Knicks to take it, but I don't think Detroit, even though I know Detroit is a tough team, and they might pull another game out, but I still think the series is over after that one.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't finish it in 5, Knicks aren't winning. If you allow this young team to come back 3-1 and win game 5 in New York, they're winning game 6 in the Palace.
And we're going to get a big game 7.
Yep. And
I hope so. I
hope it does boil down that
I
way.
love entertainment NBA playoffs. So, but I still think the Knicks win it, and I think they need the rest, especially how Tibbs plays their starters. But
absolutely. But again, I have to highlight a point that I made last week. Karl Anthony Towns, once again, central to the offense. And what happens, Sparky?
They win.
They win. Why do we not utilize Karl Anthony Towns on this team? I mean, Mikal Bridges had an awful game. OG Adenobye had an awful game. But Karl Anthony Towns hits the game-winning 3 for you in a very clutch way. And when you focus your offense through Jalen and Cat, it works. So if I'm Thibodeau, I do this every game from here on out. You can't really say that it's not worked for you. And I don't know. That's just my personal.
And another game that just ended with me scratching my head was the Timberwolves.
Yep.
They took the 3-1 lead on the Lakers. 116-113. The Lakers just fell apart those last 3 or 4 minutes. We had another coach whining and crying after the game about, fouls. And I don't know if you watched that game, but Luka falling at half court, and it looked like he slipped and he got tripped up a little bit, but it wasn't a foul. But he was saying, players just don't fall. And he was going off for 15 minutes after the game.
I love JJ,
but that where they actually did review the foul on LeBron at the end, which was it was a foul, but
here's the thing,
though.
It's not. I actually looked this up because I thought he was full of it when he came out in the press conference and said the whole hand part of the ball thing. That's actually a thing.
Oh yeah.
In the NBA, they do have a rule that if your hand is making contact with the ball during a dribble or holding it, technically your hand is part of the ball during certain situations. Now, you can't abusively, obviously, slap someone's hand or anything of that nature or do it in any forceful way.
Yeah.
But just tapping his hand and the ball falling out, that's legal in the NBA. Now, the argument more is, did LeBron actually swipe at the hand? Did he just kind of touch him and he dropped the ball? It really doesn't matter, though, because like you said, they fell apart in the fourth like the Pistons did, and the Timberwolves just made use of what they know how to do at the end of games, which is stay clutch. I think they outscored them 30+ to 19.
Yeah, that fourth quarter was just horrible.
Was ugly.
And if they would have, played the last 2 minutes, they could have pulled out that game and made this a series. This was LeBron talking about the struggle in the fourth quarter.
I mean, we had some really good looks. Luka missed a point blank layup, to put us up 7. I missed a point blank layup to put us up 4. We had a couple of opportunities. I don't think fatigue had anything to do with that. We just missed some point blank shots. We were getting to what we wanted to get into, and we just weren't able to convert.
The Lakers bench also got outscored in this game 25-6. And those 6 points came from one guy. Honestly, the unsung hero of this series to me has been Jaden McDaniels for the Timberwolves. The guy averages about 20+ anytime that this team wins, and he has found a way to just cut apart the Lakers defense, even with LeBron and Luka playing so well on offense. I'm kind of with you on this one. I think this series is over. Is it impossible for the Lakers to come back in this down 3-1? No.
We've seen LeBron do it before.
This is the 6th time he's had to go up against a 3-1 spread against him. And honestly, like you just said, 2016 with the Cavaliers in the finals, the first time it's ever happened in the finals. So it's not impossible, but I don't know if this team has what it takes to come back, dude. No. I really don't. Looking at what you have on the bench here, they just look empty outside of LeBron and Luka. Even Austin Reeves hasn't really shown up in this series at all. So,
yeah, and he had some stupid fouls in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. And then going over to Boston, went up 3-1 on Orlando with a 9-point win. But I really wanted to get into this game because the Pacers go up 3-1. Lillard, that injury with a non-contact, and that looked ugly. And after that injury, that was early in the game. They ended up losing by 129-103. The Pacers, I just don't think the Bucks got it.
No. Pacers, 8 guys in double figs. 8 players scored in double figures in this game for the Pacers. That's the first time it's ever happened in the franchise history. Honestly, I don't know of a lot of other teams that could do that. And it's just the spreading the ball, spreading the wealth mentality that the Pacers have, and they get out in transition so well. Honestly, after Dame went down again with that Achilles injury, which they don't know if it's a tear or not, we're going to get the answer to that today at some point.
Yeah, they have a MRI today.
They're hopeful it is not, but we'll see what happens. This team looked demoralized afterwards. The only guy that looked like he wanted to play or at least shoot was Kevin Porter Jr., who did all he could along with Giannis to keep them at least competitive throughout this game. But I have to agree with you. This series is done. The Bucks are demoralized. They're deflated. Doc Rivers might be out of a job. Giannis might not be there next year now. I don't know. Like, looking at him on the sign,
again, he looks pissed.
Honestly, no, I know what I said last week. We have a promo going right now and I kind of stand by it. Let's slow pump it down a little bit. Let's see how the offseason looks. But honestly, the way he looked on the sideline yesterday, that's a guy whose face said, you know what? I'm tired of this. We're facing the 4th straight season where you're going to be bounced in the first round after you won a championship. That does not happen.
No. And this is Doc after the game.
So we're back to the drawing board, obviously. We played the one game without him. We saw some things there. We're going to look at film at that. Listen, we can't let a team shoot 60% from the field, no matter who's on the floor. We can't let a team shoot 46, 48% from the three. All right. We can be a better offensive team. We shot 41%, 42%. So, this is a tough one to watch because of what happened. But those things can't happen either.
The zero fear from the Pacers, too, is what kind of gets me. Like, again, 2-3 years ago, we're talking about the Bucks as if they're one of the best teams in the NBA and no one can beat them when they had Chris Middleton and all this other stuff. And now we're looking at it just Giannis and company.
Well, looking at these games or these series that are 2-1, you could throw in the Warriors and Houston, the Knicks and Detroit. I mean, even Minnesota and the Lakers now 3-1, Boston, Orlando,
3-1,
Pacers and Bucks. Do you see if anyone
has
a lot of these series look like they're done, but if you had to pick a series of somebody who could come back, I mean, obviously I'd have to throw in the Lakers just because we've seen LeBron do it, but you just broke it down. It doesn't look like he has the core of the team that can do that he's had in the past.
Yeah, not like he did in Cleveland.
And Luka even looks lost.
Well, Luka looks great on offense shooting, but I don't even think he had
there was like 3 or 4 plays yesterday in the fourth quarter where they gave up points, and it was on Luka.
Yeah,
he was running around in circles, looking like.
Look, man, for the Lakers to be fishing for calls, knock that off. JJ, you know what it's like to play in the playoffs. Knock that off. I know you're trying to defend your guys, but this is the playoffs, and everybody's getting called. In fact, let's be honest, the only one that's getting calls on most of their games are you. And this series, the Laker and the Timberwolves series has been the only one where I've seen the refs actually kind of call those same kind of calls they'll call in the regular season. Everybody else is getting banged up. So you need to catch up with the rest of the crowd here, my friend. But if there's anybody that has a chance to come back in this series, I honestly don't think any of them do. The Magic, as nice as they look, they are missing their 2 key guys, which are Mo Wagner and Suggs. They need those 2 on the court next year. And I think they're a completely different team when they have them. And the Celtics are way too deep. So I can't see them coming back and winning this series. The Bucks are done. The Bucks are dead. I don't know what to tell you. When you get run out of your gym like that in a game 4 at home, you're going back to Indiana. It's done. Cleveland better get ready for the Pacers because that's what's coming next. I think Cleveland wraps it up tonight. I venture to say that the Rockets are done too, but honestly, no, you know what? I'll stand on that. If there's one team that could probably come back randomly, it would be Houston. And that's because of how talented they are and how great of a head coach they have.
So this is a must win tonight?
Yeah, it's a desperate must win tonight, and you need Green to have at least 30. At least 30. You need to have a game that bounces you back from this embarrassing game 3 that you can no longer say is jitters. You can't have that, dude. I know you're young, but if you want to be a superstar in the NBA like everyone sees you to be, you need to step up in the playoffs.
I totally agree. I think the Cavs wrap it up tonight, and I think the Warriors win, but I wouldn't doubt it if Houston gets up in this series and ties it up tonight. But we did have a listener text in, says Denver I'm pulling Denver. I think they pull out the game and get over on the Clippers.
Honestly, Denver has a good chance to do it, but I still don't think that the 40+ minute for all 5 your starting 5 and relying on one guy throughout it's the Knicks formula from a couple years ago. And it's not sustainable. We've seen it multiple times. They're probably a little more like talented than the Knicks roster was that year, but let's be honest, it hasn't worked in the past. I don't think it's going to work now unless Joker comes out and literally averages 30 and 20 throughout the entire playoffs.
Well, let's wrap up this segment. We've got some miscellaneous news to break right here on Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky.
Some news out of Instagram. Adam Schefter reports that the Cowboys are deep in conversation with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh?
Trying to get George Pickens off their hand.
Oh.
Throw Pickens in with CeeDee Lamb.
Honestly, that could be a good tandem. But again, I think a lot of the frustrations around George Pickens is the fact that he's not the wide receiver one on his team. So I'm not 100% sure how well this is going to work out being traded to the Cowboys, where not only he's not going to be the number one receiver on his team, but now he's going to be the center of attention in the WWE's,
Pretty
in the
much.
NFL's biggest, I don't know, circus.
Yes.
Let's not forget what Dallas Cowboys players have to go through on a daily basis with all of their fan-led tours and all of that stuff through the locker rooms, and it's got to be annoying. I mean, I don't understand why Jerry allows this. I really don't.
And I saw over the weekend Hunter Renfrow
going to the Carolina Panthers
after taking last year off.
I don't see this being a great pickup for the Panthers. But again, they have this plan in their head that they think is going to work out. I don't believe it, but I'm a Falcons fan, so I'm happy with whatever they want to do. Until I see them actually, win double-digit games, I'm not going to really worried about the Panthers.
It's Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a move to put some depth in their wide receiver room after drafting a couple people, because I do believe they drafted Horn Jr. as well out of Colorado, who's a solid receiver, probably a better slot receiver than anything. But obviously that's Hunter Renfro's entire game is in the slot. So I would assume he's going to be the guy for them there.
And before we get into this, might be a good setup, but I saw over the weekend the college football 25 cover included Travis Hunter on the cover, which is now a Jacksonville Jaguar.
Yep.
Donovan Edwards from Michigan, who went to the Jets undrafted. And
your new boy, Quinn Ewers
from Texas.
How do you feel about the pickup, my friend? Last quarterback picked up in the draft too, by the way.
I read up on him because I'm not a big fan of Texas. I didn't watch a lot of Texas football.
He beat out Arch, so it's got to be good, right?
So you would think, but a 7th round draft pick, okay. But it was more interesting with how much money he turned down and then how much money he's expected to make with his 4-year contract, his rookie deal. So I was going over this. So number one, Cam Ward is projected to make a little over $48 million on his rookie deal.
Stupid money for
Jackson
someone who's
Dart
never touched a football field.
Jackson Dart, 17 mil, being the 25th pick of the draft. And then it goes down to 40 with Tyler making 10.8. Milrow is about 6.2 million. And then 94, Dylan Gabriel, 6.2. And then Shador at 4.6. So I was reading. So Quinn turned down $8 million for the NIL transfer offer.
Right.
Declined so he could enter the draft. Then he was picked in the 7th round by Miami. And looking at his projection rookie deal, it's about $1 million, a little less than $1 million for a 4-year deal per year. So it's like a $4 million deal. I personally don't. The more I've read about him, and I'm not going to quote any grades because I think it's stupid, but they need another backup. Obviously, as even going into camp, you need a camp body. The last late round draft pick was Skylar Thompson, and that was horrible. And I'm still surprised he found a job. But you watch a lot more college. I mean, what do you see at Tyler? Because what I read is that he gets streaky, but it takes a while. He gets bad games. I mean, a 7th round draft pick, but
he had his injury history as well, obviously going down early in the year.
But his problem is that he doesn't read defenses, and that in the NFL, it might be a good slap in the face if you don't learn that quick.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those things that we've learned over the last couple of years. Is if you can't read defenses very well as a quarterback, it's not going to be very good for you. That's why I personally believe that IQ test that they make you play or do before you get drafted is probably more beneficial than your actual pro day sometimes, because outside of what your pro day shows you your pro day really only shows you how far of a football you can throw, how fast you are, and how well you can do these drills. It really doesn't show you defenses. They're not going against scrimmage defenses like that. Like, that's where I think that you're kind of missing on the pro day, in my personal opinion. But I think he's a solid quarterback. Does he start for you? More than likely not. I'm not a huge fan of Texas either, but Quinn was a solid starter for the Longhorns. Took him to, subpar levels. He wasn't exactly the greatest, and everybody was just sitting there waiting for Arch Manning. I think it's more interesting the money that he left on the table than where he ended up, because going forward, I know we're in the the early stages of the NIL stuff. But realistically, you're going to have to figure out something to either allow these guys to go back to college if they want to, kind of like baseball does, or you're just going to have some sort of disclaimer or something, be like, look, dude, like, this is how the job market works, which is more likely how this is going to work. If you want to stay at the job you're currently at and get a certain amount of money, you can do that, or you can move on to a job that potentially gets you more money or not.
So you think they make any tweaks about this?
I think there's possibility that again, you do something kind of like baseball, where if you are like a late round draft pick, because I know that was one of the big things about Shador when he was sliding so low, was a lot of people were thinking, well, what if he just decides to go back to college and just go play one more year in college? With the transfer portal and the NIL stuff, all that type of hoopla, it's not necessarily out of the ordinary. I mean, he was making $40 million as a college quarterback. Now he's only making $4 million. So understandably so, everybody thought, maybe he goes back to Colorado or some other school and plays one more year. I think that that's a possibility for guys like him and Quinn Ewers if the NIL was here longer. But I do think that at some point the NFL is going to have some sort of deal with the NIL and the NCAA where, say, someone comes out in 4 or 5 years that's on the level of Quinn Ewers, maybe a Carson Beck, and he's going to go in the 7th round and says, nah, I want to go back. Like,
you think that would be something that either they allow a player to pull out of the draft after he's committed to it, or to the point where in 20 years they set up a AAA type league where he would play in the Dolphins practice team.
Right. Like they have the actual practice squads, have a D League kind of a thing, which honestly, I don't see why they don't do that. Just throwing that out
Anyway,
there.
they can make some money.
I'm
sure
just
they
saying, you
jump
got
on
a
it.
full team on that practice squad. I'm pretty sure you could field a team and have a whole D League if you wanted to.
Especially maybe that's a deal that they make when they're expanding the season.
Absolutely, and expanding rosters, because we're talking now about expanding rosters to 60 plus players. So why not? But
be the NXT of the NFL.
I guess. But I mean, again, I think that eventually, yeah, you're going to have some sort of deal that maybe like if you commit to the draft, but something happens and you drop past the 5th round or something like that, into day 3, maybe they'll allow you to have a clause that'll, you can back out of the draft, but you have to do it before day 3 starts.
I was going to say, because I was reading that on Saturday when, was it round 5 was wrapping up,
right,
or 4, where they were saying, Shador should just go back to college.
Yeah, a lot of people.
I'm like, well, you got to be able to do that before
the draft
you get picked, because then you're talking, legal and issues where, the Shador has a chance.
Right.
We talked about that in the first hour where he can actually start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll be some maneuvering with Cleveland.
Honestly,
but
I think he's got a good chance to be the starter in Cleveland next year.
And I was also at the point where, what if Cleveland was to get him and he says, I don't want to play here.
Right. Which is coming. And I think
there's
that's
got to be some type of security for a team that wastes the draft pick on a player that doesn't want to be there, or says, you know what, I'm going to go back to college.
But see, and again, that's coming. I think that's what this entire thing with the NFL, the collusion, conspiracy against Shador was about, was stopping players from being able to do that. Because we saw that kind of last year with Caleb Williams. Everybody was saying, will he actually want to go to the Bears? Nobody has actually backed out of being drafted by somebody since Eli did it. And actually, I shouldn't say that, because I'm sure somebody did it and we just haven't talked about it in the last couple of days. Nobody on a big name like that has done it since Eli's done it. So let's not act like this is something that's common in the NFL. It really isn't. When you get called, most kids are saying, yes, 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 please take me right now. Like, they want to be in the league. That's the whole point. They're here. But I do think, just like baseball, and I'll continue to go back to baseball because they're the ones that are really the ones that do this frequently. If you get drafted in the 7th round of the MLB draft, but you don't feel like going to the draft and you want to go back to college for a year, they allow that. You just lose the draft pick. Like NFL, I feel like you got to move into something kind of like that, especially with these NIL deals being so lucrative. A lot of these guys are going to want to do that.
Yeah, and they would have to make some type of deal where the draft is safe or recovered,
right?
Because then teams will be like, no, because if I'm losing a draft pick because I picked somebody that was committed to the draft,
right? Maybe you get like a compensation pick in the next year or something like that. Or maybe you do it in a sense of like, if you want to drop out or decommit from the draft, you'd have to do it before day 3. And then they will just wipe your name from the list. You know what I mean? Like, just teams won't be able to draft you. and teams will have to make adjustments, but they do that all the time. So it's not that big of a deal. But I think that that's probably the more the easiest option to go about it, I guess, in the short term would just be put a clause into something in the commitment of the draft and say, if you don't get picked by, say, day 3, if you want to decommit from the draft, it allows you to do so.
So you think Ewers makes the team, 1 or 2 leapfrogs over
You're the one to tell me that, my friend.
Zach
You're
Wilson.
the Dolphins fan.
I don't know anything about this kid.
I mean, again, who's your third stringer? Because obviously you got Tua and Zach Wilson. So obviously,
as of right now, I don't think we had one.
Okay,
I think it was Skyler
if you keep a third
or Huntley, and they're both gone.
Yeah, and they're both gone. So yeah, if you keep a third, I would say he makes the team. Does he play at all? Probably not. And this is the preseason because, I mean, again, would I say he's better than Tua or Zach Wilson? No, would not say that. But again, I haven't seen him on an NFL field. Maybe he can shock some people and be like Colt McCoy and just sit and wait for his time. And then when he finally gets a shot, people are sitting here talking about him saying, how did this guy slip through the cracks? Well, he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Let's start with that.
Well, we'll wrap up this segment and come back, wrap up the show. We've got a busy week, and we'll talk more about that right after this break on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. we got past the Soft Survivor theory. How do you? Yay. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky.
At least fans are getting crazy.
Dude, okay, we've been talking about this. There's been a story at least twice a week the last 3-4 weeks. And baseball had one happen yesterday I was very curious about. Jalen Duran, the outfielder for the Red Sox, had an altercation with a Guardians fan where he said something, quote unquote, very inappropriate. They haven't stated what the fan has said. The fan then scurried off into the canopy to try to run away. He scurried off up the stairs. They caught him, threw him out. I don't understand this though. Like, we're all trying to enjoy the game. And I get your team's getting shellacked. I think they were down 12-5 or something like that at the time. But what's the point in taking jabs at somebody you don't even know? And especially because from what I understand is the guy was taking jabs at Duran's mental health, which he has come forward about in this entire documentary or docu-series rather on Netflix. If you haven't, go check it out. Go check out the Clubhouse. It's actually really good. I'm not even a Red Sox fan. I really liked it. And it really talked about how he struggled with suicidal thoughts and all this type of stuff. Why do people have the thought process of, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to poke fun at the fact that this guy wanted to kill himself. Because that's the only thing I could think of that would have caused that much of a stir that quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much what the report's saying.
Yeah.
Without, expanding too deep into it. It's just almost as
it's wild.
We've seen it in wrestling. We've seen it in pretty much every sport. We've seen it, with I'll go back to Puka's brother in a UFL game. Somebody was, chapping, while he was walking off the field, and Samson Nakua slaps him.
Literal slap.
And I thought it was a joke when I first opened it, and he sure the hell slapped the hell out of him.
This is the older brother of Puka Nacua as well. The other brother of Puka Nacua also plays for the Panthers as a safety, apparently. I learned that as well over the weekend. These altercations between fans and athletes, I understand why we tell our athletes you need to have more decorum and be able to center yourself and not do these kinds of things. Nacua slapping a fan in the face, that's pretty excessive, dude. But I'm going to tell you right now, had Duran been given the opportunity to jump that railing and go face off with that fan, a lot worse than a slap probably would have happened too. But this is where we have to all remember, you're a fan enjoying a piece of entertainment. Don't be that guy to make yourself part of the show. Nobody wants to see that guy. There's a reason why clips of comedians roasting hecklers is probably the best thing that they're ever going to get online. It's because everyone likes to make fun of you, not the comedian. I promise you, it's not going to end the way you think it does.
No.
But then again, I've been around so many fans that are like that, and I can't stand watching games.
I've been to concerts where people throw batteries or, and the way Cena's been talking, I was expecting it to come to wrestling.
Honestly.
You don't want to get slapped by...
Not by John Cena. Heck no. I mean, you saw who he called that 6-year-old kid's dad a loser the other day.
But we'll talk wrestling tomorrow with KG. Plus, we'll have Dan Betts ahead of the Tom Green Show tomorrow at the Nile Theater.
Right here on the Early Bird Special, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., ESPN Bakersfield. And also go check us out on social media and YouTube at the Early Bird Special. Sparky, let's get out of here.